So we got back that day, and then the next day we had to drive out to Springfield. I am just exhausted, man. But it was good. It was,
My brother's daughter's residence.
yeah. No. I get it. I get it. Just like I set this meeting for Elgin, and now I got to drive out to Chicago. It was like, oh yeah, 12 o'clock would be fine. No. 12 o'clock in Elgin. Now I got to drive to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Happy in Chicago.
Actually, the Air and Water Show was happening. That's why it's still an hour, 20 minutes to drive down.
But when you go to Chicago?
Oh, my meeting. Yeah, I had to pay a penalty to the Illinois Department of Revenue because I didn't pay enough in estimated taxes. My tax account. I do this every year. So, okay, how much should I pay in estimated taxes a year? If you don't pay in an estimated tax, then they're going to ding you with a penalty, right? So, but this is the amount you have to pay an estimated tax. And then she charges me for looking back. I said, listen, I didn't pay enough. They charged me a 10% penalty, which wasn't a lot, honestly. But still, I mean, it's I don't want to pay a penalty if I don't have to. So, well, yeah, because I want to go through everything so that this doesn't happen.
It's your business.
What?
What is your
No,
business?
it's just my personal.
Okay, just.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know what? I got all these. I used to do my own taxes, do all my financial, everything. But I wasn't looking at it.
When I was an acupuncturist, I had plans. But TurboTax, nobody got to pay.
Well, that's why I used to do it. I used to do it myself. I didn't even use TurboTax. Yeah. So this is the amount you need to pay in estimated taxes, and it wasn't enough, and they charged me 10%. Like I said, it's not a lot, but I want to go through everything anyway.
All right, take your seats, please. It's Friday.
I got some for you. These are just copies of everything that we've attached.
All right, welcome to Friday, August 15th, Jobs Committee. The time is 10:37. Could you please call roll?
Bates,
Bates here.
Doherty, Penesis, it's online, Strathman,
She's not going to be here.
okay, Young, Allen, Lewis.
Let's hear. Okay. We have nobody that's requested remote. I need approval of the minutes from July 11th.
Bates would move for, Bates would ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes
Okay.
of July 4th.
Okay, so moved. Public comments. We have one this morning. Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson. Welcome.
Brian Anderson.
Good morning, Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove. This is the first time I've been to a Jobs Committee meeting. I've been coming to the board meetings for 2.5 years. I usually go to the finance executive in Full County. I wasn't planning on coming today. What caught my attention when I happened to scroll was letter A, the Kane County internship policy for non-elected officers discussion. So I'm wading in with little to no research, but I was hoping that I would see the chair here today, Corinne Perogue, at the last Full County board meeting. She made reference to, I'd like to see a $30,000 a year paid internship. And based on yesterday's judicial and public safety and where we're at, everybody in this room knows where we're at with the budget. I'm all for a paid internship if the budget is balanced and we've had some consistency. Based on the little data that I have done, as you all know in this room, many municipalities across the United States offer educational volunteer unpaid internships, which I think is amazing. We've got ECC, we've got Wabansie Community College, we've even got the high schools, seniors in their technical departments that may come and do an unpaid educational internship and maybe end up working for the transportation department at some time. So I would encourage this body. I have no idea if I'm in the right committee for this conversation, but we should not be even thinking about any paid internships until the budget is 100% balanced for consistency. Unpaid internships, the private sector has done that for decades. Young men and women come in, they do the work. We get to review their work ethic, their grit, their focus, their commitment, and we turn around and go, job well done. Matter of fact, we do have a full-time job available, and that's a perfect way to do it. So I'm not going to ramble on. I think you all hear my point on this, that we should be absolutely bringing in volunteer or educational interns, but nothing to do with paid until the balance budget is consistent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, that takes us right on to the Kane County internship policy for non-elected offices discussion. Excuse me one moment. Oh, say, okay, so, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, Madam Chair, asked myself and the Human Services Committee and Cliff to kind of look at our internship policies and, revamp them and see if that's something that, the board would be interested in doing. And so, Cliff has reviewed it, I've reviewed it. We have Jamie getting us some research. As with every other thing in this county, there's two policies. There's one for elected officials and there's one for our non-electeds, our departments. This is just pertaining to our departments. Our electeds actually have quite a few different interns and they're paid and at various levels and for various jobs. So this is outside of that scope. So if we have, so we have two things. We could do volunteers, which, you know, are always welcome to come in. And then if we do an internship, we have to pay people. We cannot do an unpaid internship. According to our state statute, it has to be paid. The way that this is laid out is the department head would come to HR and say, we would like to hire an intern to do whatever the work is. And then HR would, you know, shuffle that through the committees and that would decide if they're going to do it or not. And we haven't really looked into what the pay would be for that because we don't have very many of these. It doesn't happen often. The one advantage to it is if a department could justify paying an intern because they're overloaded and instead of hiring maybe a contract worker to do some, you know, some tasks or something, we could hire an intern to do it. And it may even lead them to a full-time job with us. Now, as our speaker mentioned, we are in a bit of a, not a bit, we are in a financial crisis right now. And so we're not jumping on this. This is not something I don't think anybody has the stomach on the board to say, yeah, let's hire interns, unless there's a really good justification. So we want to move forward. We want to look at the policy. It's a 6-page policy. There's certainly some things in it that are going to have to get updated just for general reasons. So I sent you all the link to where it's at on our page. And between us and Human Services in the next month or two, we will revise it. So I just want to let you know, since we're tasked with this, that we're not going to take it off the burner, but we're not moving forward, you know, guns blazing with this either. Questions, comments on internships? Ms. Bates?
I'm very glad to hear that we have only paid interns. Otherwise, you're asking these young people to come and work for free when they've probably got to go to college the next year and they need to save up. Even the nonprofits that I've been involved with always pay our interns. You're painting a good picture with maybe we, could hire an intern instead of a contractor for the summer. It's because we're in a squeeze, it's hard to say what we should do. I think we have to take it on a case by case basis. I mean, it's great to bring these young people in and give them the experience. They have to be paid. Let's wait and see what would happen.
Mr. Young.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Oh, that
Mr.
was Ted.
Mr. Young and then Mr. Pennises.
David Young. Yeah, I think this would be a very good idea once the departments go through, because each department's going to have to go through their personnel, and I see cuts coming, and so when you do those cuts and you do trim 10% each department, I'm making this up, let's say 10%, each department trims 10% of their workforce just because they have to. Well, then, these paid interns are going to definitely cost a lot less money. And at that point, I think it would be something worth discussing for sure. And, but until that happens, we shouldn't really have that discussion, but I do see this as a positive thing that could be positive, but we're gonna have to cut whatever that percentage is, on each department.
Ms. Allen? Comment?
Yeah, Pennis is here. I second what David said. It's like we need to have some flexibility here. Ultimately there are going to be some cuts that are going to have to be made by all departments. And if there's a way that we could provide some flexibility to each of the departments and elected officials on moving forward so that they could do their jobs as best that they can, I think this internship program would fit in perfectly with that. And, once we get out of this financial crisis we're in, that's also, the internship program, I think, is a good thing too, as far as like training for, as it was mentioned earlier, potential full-time employees that we can hire that we know. And, it's good from that perspective too. So I think this is a great idea. I'll just state that for the fact.
Okay, thank you,
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, I have another comment. With the developing conversation here, I don't want us to be eliminating a full-time employee with the idea that we can hire cheaper interns. That doesn't seem ethical to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be the plan. But
Okay.
as we go through some of these things, it is something to certainly keep on the back burner. Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I apologize, I didn't hear the whole conversation. I was stuck with other issues. So the internship program, currently, as I had mentioned before, and thank you so much for bringing this up for discussion, is that this is education, and it totally meets the requirement of the riverboat funds. $30,000 would be spread about, not with our offices, elected offices, but just within our governmental departments. Right now, there is no, and they could have, wouldn't be $30,000 for an intern, one single intern, but rather could be cut up that $30,000 amongst other departments, and the length of the internship, whether it is for a summertime, which may be $1,500, whether it is for a longer period of time, $3,000, et cetera. And that would be up the departments to figure out what those costs would be. So this would not be coming from the general fund. It would not be eliminating any full-time, part-time, other jobs that are here at the county. Currently, we have a myriad of different opportunities for interns. Some of them are unpaid. which means that they're volunteers and they have certain requirements and restrictions that they really can't produce a work product. So because they're volunteers, they're supposed to just shadow, and that is directed by Human Resources and by, I guess, by law. I'm not sure which law, but that's what she mentioned to me. Now, if you are an intern and you want to have either job experience and or academic experience, you have to produce some kind of work product for your resume so you can learn what to do. Internships have been done in many other private industries. We know that for a fact, not-for-profit industries and public sector industries. But Kane County's government does not have it. Our elected offices do have interns, and we've seen them come in. And they are totally in control if they want to pay them and how much they want to pay them. I know that the state's attorney has a myriad of interns. I know that our auditor, who's sitting right here, has put together an amazing internship program. But we do not have that formality. So that, as far as compensation, it would not be coming out of the general fund. It would not be considered cheap labor because interns are not cheap. They're not forced slave labor at all. They're there to learn. They're there to get educated. And if you remember when I spoke about seniors, and I've done some recent data, and I'll bring back some more data for you, 25% of Kane County's population is in our K through 12 programs. So if you just take a look at what our high school graduates are and going up, and that data I don't have, but I will get you that number, allowing them to come in a few at a time, to do an internship program for whatever period of time that department allocates, seems to be an effective way of answering the question, which we've all had as we've gone knocking on doors. What does the county do? Because what they do is the work of the people. And what is that work? Whether it's water, whether it's development, whether it's public health, finance, all of those things is what the county does to benefit the people of Kane County. And then I'm going to put on my MBA hat for just a minute, which I think you can appreciate. Goodwill, companies that provide and allocate goodwill to their customers, that goodwill is much more valuable than their product. You know that, sir. David knows that because you own a business. If you provide satisfactory work, if you provide a satisfactory product, if you give good delivery of service, that is worth more money than your product is because it's goodwill. Now, if we have 3 interns, 5 interns coming in annually, and they go back home and they say, boy, I really learned a lot in my 6-week, 12-week opportunity. And they tell their parents, and then they tell their friends, and that goodwill gets out. And it's really important because when a business loses its goodwill, let's say United Airlines right now or Boeing, all of a sudden, when you get on a plane, do you want to go on a Boeing plane? I'd be kind of nervous. I mean, I would be personally nervous because of the misfunction of their planes lately. So this is just that opportunity to provide a small stipend, goodwill, and educational opportunities for our youth in Kane County for $30,000, potentially coming out through the Riverboat Fund if the Riverboat Committee approves it.
Mr. Young,
Unpaid internships are also
oh,
everywhere.
volunteers.
I'm sorry?
We cannot have an unpaid internship, so we have volunteers.
Okay, so we could have
paid
volunteers.
interns.
Volunteers, you still gain a lot of knowledge. You have that experience you could put on your resume. The issue of having paid internships and doing it now, that there is the look of that right now based upon where we're at financially would be a mistake. it would just make us look as a, as a Kane County board, make us look bad, and that we aren't, even though it's coming from from a riverboat fund, and you could explain that, but people's hair would be set on fire.
Mhm.
They would not, they would ignore that, even though you could say it 1,000 times,
Mhm.
it would be ignored. And they're going to say, you're hiring more people, hiring more people, hiring more people. We need to cut, 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 cut. This should be tabled until the budget is passed, and maybe, December, pick this back up. It's important to have this discussion, I think. But just the optics, it's just going to look bad.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's
it's,
my thought.
Let me say this real quick.
Sure.
I don't want to table this only because I want to make sure that we update our policies, because as a board, it takes us forever to
Yeah.
update our policies and then actually work on how this is going to look, how,
Mhm.
how departments would go about asking for this, how it would be allocated and stuff. So it's not anything that's going to happen next month for sure, or the month after.
Mhm.
And, but I do agree with you that we couldn't bring interns in right now
Yeah, no,
while we're
no.
discussing our budget.
No, if I may, I totally agree with what you just said. Not so much perhaps on the optics, but certainly on the timeline. That this would not be done until next fiscal year. But we have to get the policies put forward before we can even enter into this. So the money would not be, if we were to be agreed upon, the internships would not start until FY '26.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Dates, please.
Dates, please.
I have a feeling that many of our budgetary items are going to be asking the riverboat for money. So I think we need to, even as we're working on our huge budget and trying to balance that budget, I think many people are saying this could come from the riverboat, this could come from the riverboat. So that's just another caveat. It's just another warning of what's ahead for us as we try to balance the budget. I think many things that are in the general fund right now, people are going to be saying that's education, that's environment, that's, one of the economics. So,
Well, this would certainly fit the riverboat criteria.
and many
I
other
think what
things
she's
will
saying-
too. So
Yeah.
so we can't count on the riverboat to be available. The
Yeah,
riverboat
and
money
but
available.
I think what Madam Chair said is just one of the options because it would fall within that.
Mhm.
It would be. And if we do not have the financial resources available to, but the policy is one thing, and that has got to be updated. It's an antique. I mean, we've got to update it for current best practice. But if the money is not available, our departments cannot have interns unless they are subsidized by their universities.
By the what?
Their universities. Because then that's and that's an anomaly for that to happen. So we could not, they could have volunteership, but volunteer requires a certain, because of the training required, Office of Emergency Management, I'm thinking of, has an active volunteer program, but you have got to go through an extensive training period to be able to become a volunteer. This is much more directed. An internship is a finite period of time. It's not it's not a yearly annual thing. You can come back and volunteer. Even think of a summer job. I think that'd be the best analogy. So you work for the Y for the summertime, working as a lifeguard or a swimming coach, and then you take off and you go back to your school. So this would be the similar kind of thing. And there's a mentoring that happens with it as well, that a volunteer program may not necessarily provide direct mentoring for job opportunities.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So you do have access to the policy. So just, read it over. And if you have any thoughts on it, you can just send them to me.
Did we give you enough to help you move forward? Okay,
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a discussion.
we did our best.
You did. I thank everybody for being open about it. So that's good. All right. B, Kane County Economic Development Initiative Staff Update.
Good morning, Chris Toth speaking. I'm actually going to hand the microphone right over to the esteemed John Gruling. Yeah. We sent over some attachments. If anyone needs another copy, I have some, but I'll pass it over to John.
Steamed?
Esteemed, yes.
Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me? Am I coming through?
Now you are.
Clear.
Gotta get close.
There we go. How about that? Excellent. Okay, a couple of things. A quick update on the Kane County Economic Development Corporation. We're in the process of finalizing our feasibility study that is testing the capacity of our private sector employers in the county to fund the organization moving forward. As you all know, the startup funding is coming from the ARPA fund from the county. Again, thank you very much. But long-term, the intent always has been that the majority of the funding would come from private corporations, either already in the county or doing business in the county. So developers that are in Oak Brook that are building big buildings or small buildings here, they should have the opportunity to support the Economic Development Corporation here in Kane County. So we'll get the results of that later this month. And the next step then will be to determine whether or not we will go forward with a funding campaign, which could take another 9 months, 9 or 10 months. So this is a long-term commitment. So that's all good news. Two of the reports I asked Chris to distribute this month. One is a special report on the impacts of tariffs, and the other is something called the Economic Dashboard Report. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is you all know that we are a member of the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, GCEP. And the back office for that operation, the staffing, if you will, comes from World Business Chicago. World Business Chicago is the public-private partnership for the city of Chicago, and historically pre-GCEP was pretty much just focused on Chicago. They have a substantial staff, and probably their premier service as far as GCEP is concerned, at least at this point, is their research department. We tap their research experts on a regular basis as we're working with companies that are interested in expanding in Kane County or moving to Kane County. And oftentimes they're looking for information on available buildings. They're looking for information on workforce. They're looking to do tax comparisons with Lake County, Indiana versus Kane County, Illinois. And so those are what we refer to as customized reports, very specific to a specific information request. The two reports you have in front of you, the tariff report is a special report, but it's not a regular report. The caveat with this report is, let's see what happens next week with tariffs. Because quite frankly, there's not a lot of stability coming out of Washington relative to both short-term and long-term tariffs that will be levied. Suffice to say that no matter where this ends up, there will be an impact on Metro Chicago businesses. In some cases, more substantial than others. We're already seeing some of the impacts. A big one, which many people may not have thought about, is tourism. Tourism coming from Canada and tourism coming from Mexico has been cut back dramatically. That tends to be more of a political attitude, I think, sort of a public display, if you will, of we don't like tariffs, that, we're your most significant trading partner. and you're sticking it to us, so to speak. I don't have an opinion on that either way, but some of the other things that are more concerning is the analysis that we're getting from supply chain professionals. Looking at initially, the ability for companies to absorb some of these tariffs to keep business as usual for their customer base. On the flip side of that, if these continue to be in place, companies can only sustain so much absorption of these tariffs, and there will be some pass-through costs. I would say so far, though, they have been pretty minimal. And I think, that the hope is that there'll be some balancing out there that we will, yes?
Have the effects of the tariffs really hit the street yet?
Some have, but
I'm asking our expert, thank you.
well, it depends. There's some projections, for example, the Tax Foundation estimates that the US GDP over the next year will be reduced by 1%.
Yeah,
So that's a 12-month cycle.
yeah.
And the impact in Chicago is a $9.2 billion hit to the Chicago Metro gross domestic product.
Mhm.
But in terms of immediate, day over day, that information is really not presented here.
Okay.
John, could you explain that $9.2 billion hit? Where does that come from? Is that the tourism you're talking about?
No, that's everything. That's products manufactured here, services that are taxed, goods that are coming in from other parts of the world that maybe are processed here and then sent back out to market. Again, that's from the Tax Foundation. That's their estimate. I don't know their
Okay.
formula.
That's the penalty, though. That's out of $1 trillion, a $9 billion penalty from the tariffs.
Right. So further down on page 3 of the report, estimated economic impacts in Chicagoland. This is based on Yale Budget Lab's projections for changes in output and employment. GDP for our $886 billion economy in Chicagoland. That's a substantial economy. A 0.4% reduction in GDP it turns out to be $3.5 billion. So there's discrepancies between the source of these numbers.
Yeah.
No, I'm again, we could go through these, in ad nauseum.
It's
but
a lot of zeros.
But if you paid attention to my opening comment, this is perhaps very short term in nature, or it could level out over time, but nobody really knows because nobody knows where the tariff levies are going to end up.
Of course.
The point in sharing this report is the fact that World Business Chicago is producing reports like this. And whether or not we agree with it, we like it, we don't like it, the fact of the matter is we have some research, bona fide research, that is available to us that we're able to share for those that are interested. I wouldn't bet the farm on these reports right now, quite frankly. And we could have a long discussion about that. The second report, and this is a monthly report, and this is a snapshot economic dashboard report. This is chock full of interesting information. If you're a econo buff, economics buff, you love stuff like this. But there's a few things that you can take from this that I look at specifically every report. On page 1, not the cover page, there's up in the right-hand corner, there's something called the Chicago Business Barometer. That is at 47.1 in July. It's up 6.7, and that's good that it's up because the higher that number, the better. The problem is it's considered a negative number, anything that's 50 or less. Okay. And don't ask me to explain that. I'm just saying that the people that put this number out there say it's a negative sort of barometer if it's 50 or less. So we're trying to get above 50. And I can tell you over the last 3 or 4 months, we've been close to it. We may get there next month. The other items on page one, on the opposite right-hand, left-hand upper corner of the report, pro-Chicagoland decisions, that's 102. It's 102 companies that have made decisions to expand in the Chicago market or move here. And that, quite frankly, is ahead of last year's pace and the year before. We were at about 70, I think, last year, and they're projecting we could easily approach 200 or maybe even more, which would be substantial. And these are projects that are touched by the Chicagoland Economic Partnership and the county partners. So these are reported by Kane County, by DuPage County, by Lake County. This obviously isn't all of the business decisions that have been made to expand or move to the Chicago area, but this is a good indicator of what's going on under the GSEP tent, so to speak. The next page, it's more macro in terms of gross domestic product. It's a comparison of other major metro areas, business counts, employment, unemployment. And again, if you're into macroeconomics from a metro standpoint, these are very valuable statistics. Up in the right-hand corner, though, is very interesting because this is Chicago specific. Who's hiring as per the July 2025 information? University of Chicago, this really struck me. 2,948 empty positions that they are advertising to fill right now. I meant to check with the research people
that can't be
yesterday at
That
World
can't be
Business
right.
Chicago. What?
It can't be right.
It may be because 2 years ago, they did a mass layoff when I forget what caused it. And where all of a sudden, there was an issue that they had, because I knew someone that got laid off.
I'm not saying this is not a good number.
No,
I
no,
just-
no, I'm
it
saying
just-
it's
it just-
possible because of what happened 2 years
Could
ago.
this include the hospital?
No, there's, it could, it could. That's a good point. And I'll find out and I'll report
Okay.
back to all of you on
But
that
they
one.
had a major
Right.
contraction 2 years ago.
And Northwestern's going through one right now.
Right, exactly.
So what's interesting, though, is that if you look at all of the major hiring entities, their universities, their healthcare, Chicago Public Schools, who I thought was on a short chain in terms of
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
So we're looking at healthcare, education, and you know, well, I guess that's at Walmart.
Walmart,
Of course, they tend to be, they're probably always on this list.
Yeah.
I was surprised Amazon wasn't on this list. So again, and then onto the third page, it really brings it more granular and it talks about the counties. So if you look at the bigger numbers in terms of GDP, Kane is on the upswing, 0.5% growth. Business count, we're growing in terms of businesses, not big numbers, but you know, it's positive. Employment, we're up 1.6%, very positive. And unemployment, we're going down. We're at 3.7% as of June 2025, down a full 1.3% from a year ago. All this is very positive. And then active job postings, we've got 10,161 jobs available right now. And then employment by industry down below, I'm not going to go through them all, but tech, life sciences, manufacturing, we're all on the positive side, which is very, very good. The last page is really focused on really more on Chicago and the zip codes and the highest unemployment rates. Chicago still is struggling, especially in the south and the western parts of Chicago. Unemployment rate in Englewood is up around 20%. West Englewood, Bronzeville, Austin, 14%. These are very economically challenged areas. Suburban wise, no Kane County community is on this list.
To not be on.
Well, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen.
And
Uh,
Aurora's not on here.
Good.
Yeah. I understand.
So, again, we could spend the rest of the meeting looking at these numbers, but we're going to make this report available to all of you every month.
Digitized instead of just in paper.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, could we get a copy of this one, Chris?
This one? Yeah. Absolutely. And what I can do is I can do a little cover sheet,
Okay.
sort of going through some of the highlights.
Pulling out
The highlights.
Right, right. Which we've been doing internally, but I told Chris this week, I said, why aren't we bringing this to the Jobs Committee?
Squeak. Knave of Spades. So on the first page, John, on the
Yes.
first page, Chicago Fed Survey of Economic Conditions.
Right,
That's ain't so great, right? But I guess it's up from June.
right. Well, it depends
But
on
it's
how you
from
look at it.
minus. Oh, no, it's
It's
not.
more
gone
negative.
down. Sorry, I gotta do my math better.
Again, and these are, we can't challenge these numbers. They just put them out there. So let's face it, folks. The Chicago metro area is struggling when you compare us to Houston, LA, Las Vegas. It's Dallas, Fort Worth. But there's some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Some ongoing challenges, not the least of which is the cost of doing business, either through labor costs or taxes. Those are very, very detrimental. When we work with companies that are looking at us versus maybe even a Louisville or an Atlanta or a Nashville, we don't stack up very well at all when it comes to labor costs and taxes. It just punishes us. But on the flip side, we've got a vast labor pool, over 12 million people in our labor pool. We've got tremendous location assets, transportation distribution assets. We've got water. And I think from a long term, whether or not, what side of the climate change argument you're on, long term, we're going to be very desirable from a climate maintenance standpoint. So we'll see. Yes.
Sir, thank
Just
you.
one quick question with the housing, as you drill in, my question is that we have a housing report here and it shows on the metro section we're up 3.9%. But could we, when you do, I don't know, rural business has this with your macroeconomic dashboard.
Right.
Could we get how many housing starts are here in Kane? Oftentimes, community members indicate that we are shrinking here in Kane. I don't see that, but we have no data, hardcore data to be able to know one way or another if that's, I'm sorry. We have no hardcore data to show one way or the other. We drive through and we see developments happening.
Right.
We just need a number.
I don't know if is that available on a month over month basis, Chris?
Or a quarterly, maybe?
Housing starts, we should be able to get housing starts. That's only one housing trend though. It's resales, housing, cost of housing. And we're seeing a lot of literature right now on the fact that we've got a dire housing shortage, not just in Chicago, but in the country. And, until that begins to balance out, and there's a whole part of the population that is iced out of home ownership because of that. And, again, that on a micro level, that's very difficult for us to influence. Other than municipalities promoting not only new housing development, but affordable housing development. And I think that's work that Chris is involved in right now.
And and I totally concur with everything you just said, but just to get our micro number.
Right, micro, yeah. But let me see what we can do with that.
That's something we can work with World Business Chicago and get into the root of.
Ms. Allen,
I believe, Madam Chair, was it a ribbon cutting for some affordable housing
Yes,
just
correct.
recently?
you need to get
Correct.
a little We can't
Oh, for
hear you.
AID.
Can you talk about
Oh,
that just a little
Yes,
bit?
it seems Association for Individual Development, of course, does at market and below market and subsidized housing. The at market, I really would call it controlled because it's not, what is it, $1,800 now average within that range for a one-bedroom apartment here in Kane County. This would be probably below 1,000-ish range. But they just opened up a brand new development. They'll be building more on the intersection of Route 20 and 31 in Elgin. The ribbon cutting was lovely. It is for people who have developmental delays, as well as individuals who may have some substance abuse who have recovered, who are getting back on their feet. And they'll have and there's 70, I think there's 70 units.
Is that the AID location?
That is the AID location. Now, there's several others that are throughout the Elgin area, which are actually, I mean, I've been in one of them. It's gorgeous. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Well landscaped, well maintained, fits beautifully into the neighborhood. And you drive by and you go, what a pleasant place to look at with gardens and ample parking. And that's a very family focused center that is subsidized. It is subsidized housing. But there are pockets. There's pockets all over the place. So they're not Section 8. They're completely different. So it's not voucher programs and vouchers. You can go anywhere, and people love vouchers because you're going to get paid by the federal government or the state. So you don't have to worry about delayed payment. But these are truly subsidized, controlled housing.
But I think another part of that problem is that there are, a lot of subdivisions that are popping up, but they're all $400,000 to $500,000 houses.
Oh.
You don't see
Yeah.
anything get built for $200,000 or $300,000 now.
Um,
And so,
Not even a townhouse.
it takes two people working two incomes to able to buy a house. So that what we call workforce housing or affordable housing, which is not low income, not subsidized, but that workforce housing. My question would be, how much do we think that the fact that we don't have that is going to affect us in the future unless we figure out some way to house people?
Madam Chair. Is there any plans for another housing summit like we did a couple years ago and which was great?
Yes. No, and, if I may, I was gonna bring it up a little bit later, but I can just jump on it right now. As some of you may know, but not everyone, I am still in the process of working with CMAP on the Housing Ready Checklists program. I'm expecting this week to have the first draft of our key recommendations memo. We have gone through, they sent me a slide deck about 2 months ago with 72 slides of data of housing in this county, and I'm still trying to chew through it. But one of our goals is, as after we've created this key recommendations memo, is to shop that around, make sure we get everything right, then move on to the Housing Ready Checklist. But then the final goal with that checklist is to have another forum with both the public and private sectors coming together to kind of discuss it.
Okay.
We hosted the workforce housing forum. The last one we held was in 2022, which seems like a million years ago compared to how things are going right now. And, Chairman Lewis over there just kind of hit on the head, is workforce housing has to be in front and center for a lot of our thoughts when we talk about housing. AID is doing great things. Mark was at some events for AID. We're also working with them and other groups on some of our other workforce initiatives, but housing continues to be one of the top issues, not only affecting our senior citizens and our low income population, but also our youth, our 18 to 25 group specifically. I was sharing with some partners today some data that I found from the National Association of Realtors that last year only roughly about 4 or 5% of people in Gen Z bought a home, compared to the boomers was 41%, millennials was 28%. So our housing market is just out of whack, and it's something that we continue to address. We're working on that project, and I really am excited to, once I have some more finished product, to share that not only with the development committee, but with this committee, so that everyone gets a chance to get some eyes on it and give me some feedback, because it is something, there's not a lot we can do specifically at the county, but there's a lot we can do to help educate other people to understand the problem and some solutions. But I appreciate the question because it's something that while it's not in the forefront of everything that we're talking about, it is simmering and boiling in the background.
One more. So I used to love open space and green space, and now I know when houses go up, good, we're creating housing. Are you thinking, do we think mostly in terms of apartments for this low-cost housing or of workforce housing?
It's
Because it seems like we're building single-family homes more than apartments.
well, Chair Lewis actually kind of hit on the part when you see houses being built, you see them starting in the
Yeah.
350, 400. That's partly because of the market conditions. I've worked with other developers looking in the area for low income housing. And the way that I understand it in the state of Illinois is just the economics of it. In order to do to low income housing, it's very dependent on low income housing tax credits or LIHTC credits. And those make or break almost every single low income housing project. In terms of workforce housing, again, it's the same issue. Just in terms of cost of labor, cost of materials, even with programs to defray those costs, like our CPACE program, we can't use that for single family, but we can use that for multifamily. And that can reduce cost overhead for these projects, but it's still very expensive to build new housing stock. I think the vacancy rate for apartments in Kane County still sits at about 1%. And even as we build new ones, it fills up. I mean, it fills up instantly. When there's new senior housing, there's a line out the door for people to register for an opportunity to live there. This is one of those problems that it's going to be multifaceted, multi-pronged approaches at all levels for all incomes for all people that we can solve it. There's no simple build more houses or, density always comes up. When we did a presentation about this, there was a lot of questions about, are we asking people to build, multifamily housing everywhere? Do we still want single family homes? And the answer is, well, the market's kind of dictating that right now. But we want to try
Dictating
single family homes, but that's just because that is the slim profit margins for developers. That's where it is.
Yeah.
And these LIHTC credits are really a good tool to encourage low income housing, but it's also you have to go through a long process of applications. It takes a while. And like I said earlier, it kind of makes or breaks these projects with the slim margins. So yeah, another forum is definitely necessary, and we just want to come equipped. We had a really great turnout, about 100 people, 110 people at the last one. It was really great, but there was
interesting.
But there was one group of people who were not there, and that was the elected officials, sans the Kane County elected officials. It was all public and private organizations, developers. There were some planning staff, but there weren't elected officials. So that's one thing we're doing to really make this a robust housing rate checklist. So that way we can try and answer a lot of the questions that our municipal elected officials have to prepare them for this conversation.
Man, I thought you were going to say the people not there were the working people,
Oh, no.
the workforce people.
We make sure to get them. And I made sure to come equipped with all of not only workforce people, but a lot of data to represent the income levels of various workforce, because it's another missing middle conversation. I think that gets left aside, and thanks to Madam Chairman's leadership and saying this is workforce housing, it really had people say, well, I never really thought about those people who are professionals, but they're not at the height of their careers, so they can work in Kane County, but they can't afford to live in Kane County. And that's a group we keep in the back of our mind.
It's a good one.
Mr. Ross and then.
Well,
Mr.
no,
Young.
he's on the committee.
Mr. Young and then Mr. Ross.
Okay. I've had a complaint about this since day one, and I'm going to complain about it again now. This is the Jobs Committee, not the Workforce Housing Committee, not the Section 8 Housing Committee, not anything. Okay, we're here and we should be talking about jobs. And it specifically says this committee will provide guidance to the county board on all matters pertaining to job retention and creation in Kane County. Its objective will be to maintain and increase employment in Kane County and to promote the creation of more jobs that pay higher and livable wages, especially in the private economy. And I'll just stop right there. What are you talking about?
Because-
I mean, we need to be talking about that, because if you have jobs in the private economy that are paying a higher wage, not jobs that are in the, not these internship jobs, right, in the government, but how are we helping to create this? So I had and I sent this to you guys. I mean, a friend of mine is moving his company from California to either DuPage or Kane County. He's still working on it. It's going to be a small company, but what are the incentives that we're offering companies to actually sit here? Are we going to give them tax incentives? Are we going to give them, I mean, we're not offering anything. And I know that you guys are very helpful saying, hey, we'll help you get it, help you with space and we'll find space for you. Okay, fine. But he can have people in DuPage. He lives in West Chicago. So it's either going to be West Chicago, DuPage, or it's going to be here. So why aren't we helping companies like that out saying, hey, we want you to come here to Kane County and we want these jobs to come in here. And then how are we attracting higher end companies that will pay a higher wage so that we don't have to worry about workforce housing and subsidized housing at all? And next thing you know, we're going to be building, $500,000 single family homes everywhere just because we are attracting so many companies. So I'd like to kind of go back to that and
Go ahead, finish. Yeah.
bring that as our focus. I know
Well,
that
but it's-
workforce housing is part of that,
Yeah,
but
it works.
that should be our
because
focus.
If
Focus
we,
should be that.
if we don't have places for people to live, companies are not going to want to come here. So they really are tied together. And today we're kind of in the weeds on this. I get that. But it really is critical. And it's got to be discussed either here or in development or both.
Then discuss and develop.
Oh,
Hey,
No.
is finding affordable housing for new companies to come in, because that's and we do have that program. And I forget the name of it, but they buy up, dilapidated houses. And then one was in Geneva last year or 2 years ago. And they tore it down. They built 2 new ones and they were retail priced about over $450. But the program is government subsidizes the first time buyers if they qualify by income. And it's an interest-free loan to the home buyer. And those 2 homes sold for $450, but the people that bought it only paid in the 300s. And then when they sell the house, they have to pay back that loan, but there's no interest on it.
I would
But
like
they
to-
only do 15 houses a year.
I know, it's-
And we need to expand that because that isn't going to help many companies.
I would like to circle back to David's other question. So what are we doing? Like in the case of his friend who's going to relocate here, how do we attract him to Kane County versus DuPage?
David's talking to him.
Looking at some data.
So David asked the question, he's got a friend who's relocating a business here, and it's either going to be Kane County or DuPage.
Right.
And what he asked was, what can we as a county, what can we do to help attract this company to our county?
Unless the county has a bag of money that they could give companies,
Hmm.
the county's probably not going to be able to do very much. Smaller companies are even more challenging because of the categorical incentive programs at the state level and even at the municipal level are aimed to companies that are making larger investments and hiring more people. In fact, it's something that I'm going to be bringing forward to the EDC because I think we need to start challenging our municipalities on how they're chasing projects. Because the type of project that David is talking about, and I hate to say this because this is my career, has very little space in the economic development world. And that's nothing new, and that's unfortunate. If we're going to promote innovative entrepreneurial growth, which is probably going to be the backbone of the Kane County economy for many, many decades, we need to figure out how we are going to address some of these upfront costs. And I don't know if, some communities, they do have grant programs. Was it Geneva that had the $10,000 fix up the building grant? And it applies to retail and manufacturing. So it's like, every time I got a deal in Geneva, I'm going to City Hall with my hand out. If it qualifies, we're going to make sure it gets it. But not every community is doing that. So it's not the right answer you want to hear, but it's a challenge that we have to
It's a
address.
good discussion point. How many employees will this company have?
20,
Okay,
10, 20, it's gonna be small.
yeah, which we
That's not
like
so
those
small.
because those small businesses are really important.
It's important to make these companies feel the love,
Mhm.
okay? But that's not enough to get deals done.
No.
And so the mayors can all want economic development, but if there's not some muscle behind that, you're not going to capture some of these projects.
Madam Chair.
You brought up some super good points, and I'd like to address two of them. On a positive note, if you can share, well, I will share with you, and then you can share it with your friend. Contact a DCEO who will be relocating probably in the next 2 months at our workforce office in Batavia, and he works with exactly the kind of companies you're talking about. I can't, it's a state agency, but at least you'll have a name and you can call him now. And if there's anything that the state can support, I'm sure he'll be right on it because that's what he does. And he lives here in Kane County too. Secondly, please remember, and you know this, that when you have labor who is building buildings, whether or not it's private or union businesses, those construction workers make a livable wage. And they, most of the time, often, at least, they live regionally, so that money will stay locally. And then as developments start getting developed, so does, and we've had this at development meetings, so does the retail spaces that occur with all of that, which start developing more consistent jobs. So as the communities develop, whether it's single family homes or dense homes, apartment type of homes, multifamily, that density brings in other opportunities, which, and depending on income, will bring in a different type of retail establishment. Because all that data is all about that. So one does help the other. The construction jobs are temporary. Project is done, but then the retail outlets, it spills over. You buy refrigerators and et cetera, and carpeting and all that good stuff for your home, or decorations, even if it's for an apartment. So it spills out. So it is part of our economic development matrix and job matrix.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, is there any red tape that we can eliminate for businesses coming into Kane County? That doesn't cost money, but it could be, for example, in Aurora, we created a Soul Smart program that's supposed to make it easier to get solar panels approved. Is there any approval process that we can streamline for friendliness towards businesses?
Yes. Something that's sort of entered the economic development vernacular is something called speed to market.
Ooh, good one.
So once a company makes a decision to
Uh-huh.
either move or expand, they want to get it done as quickly as possible.
Are we doing that?
Well, in some cases, municipalities are figuring out how to do that. If it takes 6 months to get a permit, to do a curb cut or
Make
to
it
get,
three.
but it's every
Or
community
two or
needs to
one.
look at that development approval
Because
process.
that doesn't cost us anything,
No, it doesn't.
but
It should,
it's share the love. Like you said,
but your answer is yes. The answer to that is yes.
are ways that we could do
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Well, let's do that. How do we do it?
Well, it's really going to be more at the municipal level again.
It's a municipality.
And that's just the nature of the beast. Most of these
Okay.
projects are being entitled in municipalities.
And we recently did one, Mavis, on Kirk Road, to do a curb cut for construction.
Okay,
And that is right across the street from where the Forest Preserve meets.
okay.
Mr. Ruff.
One of the things and I've started doing it at St. Charles. They have a IGA meeting every month.
Which is
Where
what?
intergovernment agencies. So it's the school board, the park district, the city. They just added Elgin Community, the Forest Reserve, and I'm representing the county. Mr. Kayas used to go, but because it's St. Charles, I'm starting to go. And it's building that communication relationship, because it's coming up on a year, we'll try to extend their TIF. They ran into a lot of issues because they weren't talking to the county.
Yeah.
Well, I've stepped in to at least start that conversation. And I think we need to have all our board members looking at what are their major cities and are we talking to them? The other example that where it wasn't working, and I forget what small town, I think Maple Park, they were complaining to us because we wouldn't extend their TIF or whatever. Well, we've never had a communication with them. And it starts with communication.
Thanks for bringing that up. Do you have anything else before we move on?
Just one brief item. I know that parking lot was full of every Wednesday in July, but we were hosting as part of our IMEC ARPA program, improving and expanding pipelines for manufacturer employers. We hosted a 3-week series as part of that. We had about 12 to 15 people attend each day, and it was a classroom designed for managerial level people at manufacturers to learn how to attract different employees outside of their normal pipelines, including those with developmental needs. And then they also came up with work plans on how to keep them and how to improve their processes in working with them. That just comes under our manufacturing with IMEC ARPA projects. So just really excited to share that. And I hope once that program finishes up with us and moves on to the EDC that we can have them come in and to kind of give an overview of the outcomes of working with the manufacturers under that project. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. All right. The next thing should be the Office of Community Reinvestment Workforce Development Division, and I do not see that our manager over there is online to give a report. So I don't think we'll be having one. I'll talk to him because starting next month, he does need to start giving us a report. We've got to get back on track on that.
And he's going to be resigning at, I think, close to the end of September. So we are in the process, if we can talk, about recruiting a new permanent, because he's our interim, a permanent employee.
All right. Any new business? Okay. I have no comments. No need for executive session. Need a motion to place the reports on file?
It moves.
Okay.
For unanimous consent. To put
Okay.
the
Okay.
reports on file.
No objection. Motion to adjourn.
It moves.
Okay.